Hi, everyone. Welcome to Freebird Spirit YouTube channel. Thank you for swinging by and hanging out with Chrys and I today as we dive into our discussion. Discussion 17, I believe.
Yes. 1-7.
How many?
1-7.
1-7. Ooh. And wisdom behind awakenings. And we've had some additions to this in regards to some channeling that has started to present as we do these discussions. And so Chrys and I both feel that is going to be a huge part of our discussions from here on out. And so we're both excited about that and being able to ask questions. So please feel free to in the comments when you are part of the discussion, which of course we love, because this is a community, family. The whole group of us are together having this discussion. So your input and part of the discussion is valuable and needed. And so, but in that, please feel free to put down questions that you'd like to ask this beautiful light entity that's coming in and answering some of these things that we are asking. All right. So all that being said, the one thing about awakening, wisdom behind awakening, the reason we come together is because, and on all of you, it's not a mistake that you're here in this discussion with us. It's because we want to do better, don't we? We want to do better. We want to walk in wisdom and light and love, and we want to do better. So in that, sometimes in that desire, and we put that out to the universe, we want to do better. We want to be more awakened. Well, guess what happens? We start getting our buttons pushed, right? They're like, okay, you want to do better? Okay, we're going to offer you some experience, offer you some opportunities, and maybe some little challenges to do better. And that's okay. We're not given more than we can handle. It's just that we are given some opportunities to face some of these human experiences and do better. So I'm wondering, and has there been in the last, this is number 17, and of course we skipped some weeks, but so in the last 25 weeks that in being a part of this conversation, that you've been offered some challenges to do better in, and have you noticed them? Have you noticed and have you done better? And so I know for me, yes. So just even in just reaction to what I normally react to something, that I may pause and listen to the situation deeper from all sides. I'm not coming at it in response to protecting myself or I need to get my word across. Mm-hmm. It's truly listening to the other energy that's being present. Chrys, anything for you on your side? Have you noticed that in other human beings or in yourself?
No. No, because I live a charmed life.
Yes, you are. You live a charmed life.
I do live a charmed life. Yes. Yeah, well, you just triggered a whole bunch of stuff. So I'm sort of sitting here trying to figure out what to say.
Which one to bring forward?
Well, I think the thing I had to grapple with this week was this possible threat that I had something malignant in my lung and I don't. But when the message came through that I needed to get a biopsy, I went straight into fear. right? So
Right.
there's your lesson.
Mhm.
I went straight into fear. And then I started to do my work, right? I started doing what I have learned I should do or try. And so I started doing that. And by the second day, I was putting it in perspective. I'm saying, I'm in charge. This is the shell I'm in. So what do I want to be doing? And so I started moving there. And then I started to focus on my doctor and started rethinking what she said and who she is. And I thought, she's not going to want to do a biopsy. It's invasive. Those are things, they have an effect. And I'm already in a full grown battle with my body. So, it's sort of like, okay. And it's not a cancer battle, it's the effect of chemo.
Effective chemo. Yeah.
Right. So that's the part that's, but at least when you can think and you're healthier, it suddenly becomes your chore instead of your demise. So I started thinking about her, and I'm thinking about what's her take, and how does she think about these things? And then I started calming myself down completely, because I thought, oh, she's not going to want to do this, and if she does, I'm going to say no. And I'm going to say, what about a PET scan? There are other ways to do this. But I thought, we'll see what she says. And then we did the members group on Friday, and everyone said, that's not malignant. And I was like, okay, there's more validation. So it was like learning that there are options before you panic and get consumed with fear, which makes you sicker.
Right.
Makes
It
you
makes
sicker.
you sicker.
Yeah. And then I did a bunch of reading about the importance of the immune system and how the immune system plays a part in not only any kind of inflammation, because I'm always dealing with arthritis and all that right now, and the message was, it's all about the immune system. And I thought, oh, and of course cancer is all about the immune system. And what's one of the key triggers that takes the immune system down is stress. What triggers stress? Fear, anger, all those things, fatigue, all of that stuff. So I started going, okay, so there's a lesson here. The lesson is stay focused on what's essential, not what the noise is around you.
No,
And that was a hard week, because I'm not the only one going through stuff. So I had to deal with my reactions to people sort of venting on me. But yeah, but the fact that they're venting on me is actually a good sign.
that is.
Does that make sense to you? I think it's a good sign, because they think I'm healthy enough to take it.
Right. They're like, oh, well, look at,
Yeah.
she's
It's like,
back.
oh, okay.
Look, Chrys is back in town.
Oh, great. Teach me, teach.
Yeah. teach me. So, okay. So what, breaking this down is, it really shows me that we have this we do maneuver in free will constantly. And we're given opportunities constantly. So we have these opportunities. Okay, so let's say, and I'm making this, I'll make up a scenario. So let's say that you're getting a diagnosis of something. Let's say you have an autoimmune. Okay, so they say, okay, you have autoimmune issue going on, and it's chronic, and so forth. So you take this information and you're like, well, and you're identifying with it, because you're like, yeah, because I've been feeling like this, and it really affects me, and I can't do this, and I can't do that, and I can't. So where's our free will in that? Because our body is doing something against us, right? So the free will comes in, is offering us an opportunity of how we identify with the new diagnosis. Yeah. So we can identify and go, okay, so that's me now. That is me. That diagnosis is me. Or we have the opportunity to go, okay, so my body's doing this, but I'm choosing not to identify that this is me now. This is not my whole story. This might be a chapter in the story of the challenges I'm going through on this plane, but I'm not making it me. I'm not going to fully identify with this. So I'm not going to go out in the world and everybody's going to go, oh yeah, she has an autoimmune. She has that diagnosis. It is part of your story. You can choose to pull in the strength, like that, but it's not. Chrys, do you have a better way of saying what?
You say it just fine.
No.
You say it just fine. It's not that. It's that there, I think because I've been teaching for so long, but one thing I've learned is that there are a million ways to say things. I will frequently say to students, okay, you heard it from me, now somebody here say it. Because different voices and different ways of making sense sometimes make it resonate more.
Right. So how do you make sense of what I'm saying?
Well, it made me think about a couple of things. One was that, what I'm also, because I'm getting ready to teach that one course, I've been thinking a lot about the package we've been given as humans is to think that what's tangible is real and there is nothing else. So unless you can show to me, it doesn't exist. It's like, yeah, okay. Well, then there's the truth. The truth is that 96% of what's around us is dark matter. That when you think about how your telephone got a phone message or got a phone call, it wasn't attached to a wire, right? It came through the energy field that is surrounding you, but you are also part of that energy field. So when you get caught in that mindset, which is exactly what it is, it's a mindset that this three-dimensional realm is somehow the only thing, then you can't cope with what's really challenging. And you said it yesterday on the Sunday show when you said you had a headache and you said, but when I'm reading, the pain disappears. You step out of that dimension into what they call the torus, but into the TORUS, not the other one, but into the energy field. Mm-hmm. And when you're in the energy field is where you're getting, all your intuitive stuff, the channeling, all of it's coming through the energy field, the Akashic record, being able to connect with spirits, it's all in that realm. And that's 96% of what's around you. And you're connected to the universe on top of it. So when you can expand your thinking to get there and to rehearse it and say it over and over and over again, then suddenly you're going to start finding your abilities to open up. But you're going to find that you have better skills to manage the three-dimensional, right? Mm-hmm. That's what came up for me. I was really thinking about you saying that yesterday, and I thought that's exactly
that is a great analogy to what this picture of how we identify with this physical world, and that we can literally, we have this opportunity to literally shift into, I call it the in-between. You have actual science words for it.
The field,
the torus,
it's the field. An aura is a torus.
Okay.
And you can expand your aura beyond, many, many feet. And there have been tons of experiments now about people who are in one part of the world asking a whole group of people in another part of the world to focus on one thing, and they actually make something change. So, once you get there, and for those of you who think that there's real truth in the Department of Defense has been using remote viewing since the 30s. So
yeah, that's old school.
They know it's real.
Yeah,
they just pretend it's not. But
Just
I mean,
like
John
just
McCain was
just
found
like
by children. Yeah.
just like our AT friends, they know it's real. They just pretend
Yes.
like it's not.
Right. Right. I know it gets tiresome though.
I
And
know. It's like,
you know,
yeah,
it gets really tiresome. I would really love it if I could spend more time around people who get that, because it would allow me to expand even more. It would be
exactly.
right.
Mhm.
So anyway, so when you asked me a question, you said, is there another way to say this? I think there's probably many ways to say that. But
The thing is, the one thing I just really want us all to embrace together here is that free will piece, because we feel like our free will has been taken from us when something
right,
afflicts this body. And
right,
that's not true. We still can step into that free will. We still have a choice.
right,
Still have choices,
right,
even when something afflicts this physical body.
right.
And so in that, we can, number one, do better. And that's why we're all here. We all want to do better. And do the challenges that face us better. And that's one. Acknowledging this free will. It's such a beautiful gift in coming and being here. And the more we recognize that, I feel like that when things we do, I just noticed that you have a lot of snow.
Oh, yes.
When did you guys get hit?
Last night.
Yeah, we did too.
Yeah.
Not that much though.
Actually not. Syracuse gets 156 inches a year.
Oh, okay.
We have had 2 storms. This
Nice.
one was 4 inches, and it's
Yeah,
wet.
I think the storms are coming. I just think they're coming later this year for you guys.
Well, we'll see. We'll see,
Yeah.
because it's really not cold enough. So it's practically a rainstorm, but it freezes when it's coming in. So it's not. I mean, that's
Not like what
snow
you're
is,
used
but
to.
yeah, yeah.
Anyways, I digress.
You
But
did.
yeah, I got distracted by snow.
I know, but speaking of the third dimension,
I know. So
right?
that free will piece, so that it doesn't become our whole story, and we still have a choice in when something afflicts this body. And I feel like when we read stories about people being able to heal themselves or really get through tough diagnoses so well, it's because they understand that concept that I have a choice in this diagnosis. And stepping into that realm, that energy realm that you're talking about, and being able to look back and go, okay, I'm gonna be a part of this healing, because I see healing here, and I'm gonna focus on like that. Or and it's okay, whatever you guys, wherever you're at and whatever you choose, you still have free will, and you can freely stay in that diagnosis to experience it this way rather than this way. That's okay. Again, free will. We're not, this is just an opportunity for you.
Choose, right? You can
Yeah.
choose to experience it either as somebody imposing it on you, or you can experience it as, okay, all right, I heard you. Now let's see, what are my choices, right? And how can I invite in my connection to the field in a way that we take care of it differently? There's a tool there.
Now, I'm hearing some resistance here from I'm hearing some resistance from our family here. I hear it. I hear you, and I'm holding space for you. I also acknowledge that when things happen to us, and you're a victim of assault, or you're a victim of inside your family, victim of violence, or and as a child, and you're like, well, I didn't have a choice. I hear you. I embrace you. Both of us do. We understand. We both have experienced being on the other side of that type of assault, or like that. violence. So when we hear you and we hold space for you, but now, what is the opportunity that you have now, acknowledging that challenge that you went through? Where is that opportunity now,
Well,
right?
yeah, I'm glad you said that, but we're not novices. Neither of us. We've both been through the mill in a whole variety of ways.
Yeah.
And at the same time, grabbed a hold of our spiritual selves in a powerful way, but it evolved over time. And I think part of what is meaningful to me is being able to have conversations like this to help people get there sooner.
Yes. So
Get there sooner.
yeah, and I do. I mean, I just want to acknowledge you because I know what it. I've been there when someone's like, when I'm like, but can you see me? Can you hear me? I was hurt. I was hurt. I was terrorized. Like that. Yes, we hear you. We see you. I just want you to know that. But now with that opportunity, I know for me and my story, if I hadn't had experienced some of those challenges, I lived in the in between because of that. I disassociated from the 3D because it was too harsh for me. So I got to learn the in between. I got to be with my spirit guides and my and people who were dead. I got to be with that and understand it on a different level because of the violence, right? That I was disassociating from. And I learned how to do that early. So that's something that I can take away from that. And that's the free will that I have. I choose to look at it and go, okay, I'm hugging that little girl. I'm hugging, and but I'm also understanding the value that I can take from it. It wasn't in vain.
Right.
Didn't go through war in vain. This is the outcome of that war. You know what I mean? So there's an opportunity for those who have gone through their own wars. And I hope that helps. But Chrys,
well, and I've got my own stories, right? And when you talk about the in between, you're talking about you have a different version than mine, obviously. But until I was in my late 20s, I was anorexic. And my way of being in the in between was to daydream all the time.
Daydream, that's the same thing.
I didn't, yeah, I know. And I did that's how I did school. School was like a refuge, but my way of coping was to not be here. I was just always out there somewhere. And
yeah, you were trying to really not be here by being anorexic and
right. And I was like as skinny as I could possibly be. But yeah, and then it was a really bad accident in my late 20s that was so horrific that I came up out of that. It took months. And I changed. I totally transformed. I started therapy. I started doing a whole bunch of stuff, but the spiritual stuff was always there, but it was there in the package that was given to me. But the package always had so many contradictions. I was always like, if that's true, then why is this happening? It was that kind of stuff. But then, in after I started teaching, and I had chosen social inequality stuff, it was a common occurrence that a young woman would come and get in a fetal position in my office to talk about her sexual assaults. I had one student who was probably in her, I would say she's probably in her 30s, maybe 40s. She would come see me every week for half an hour. And she had been sexually assaulted by all of her male relatives as she was growing up. And she'd been in and out of mental hospitals. And I said, I will totally be present with you, but there's a time limit, and that's how I kept myself safe. She never came back because she committed suicide over break. And when that happened, she left us all presents. And when it happened, I just thought, my responsibility here is to try and figure out a way to give people information that will help them get through this. And so I started to adopt this mindset of, I'm developing an army. I'm developing an army of survivors, people who are going to make a better world. And that's really what I dedicated the rest of my career to. But it evolves, and it has many, many flavors to it, and lots of resistance at times, and angry kids, but in the end, I'm really happy to see that many of them have you taken some of this stuff and done better. But you brought up last time from what am I going to say? The Blue Brother who came in.
Yeah, I wanted to talk to you about that. Yeah. So yeah, that yes, continue.
He brought up the thing about you need to remember that you were part of a revolution.
Yeah, the revolution. Yes.
And that word kept haunting me all week, going, revolution. But
in 222, remember?
Yeah, and I looked, and there was a revolution in 222 BC where several communities, I can't pronounce the words, several communities in the area of Greece had been dominated by the Roman Empire. And the Roman Empire was trying to seize these communities, but they lived communally.
They lived
communally. A similar story to like the indigenous people and Europeans taking over. So they lived communally, and they tried to annihilate them. And what they did was they reached out to another emperor, another ruler of some sort, and asked for help, made a deal, and they beat them back, and they won, and it helped to topple the Roman Empire. But their focus was on economic equality.
And oh my goodness, I'm getting the chills on that.
Right, exactly. Economic equality, about how we don't have to distribute the wealth unevenly. We can share it and do better that way.
Did you just send me a guy talking about that today?
Did I?
And he was talking about that.
Yes, he was a comedian.
He was a comedian.
That was a comedian, but he gave a whole long speech about capitalism, and I'm sitting here going, whoa. He starts out with that whole shtick about gay marriage, because he was telling us, I know it was, remember he told the story about how in Oklahoma some politicians said one of the ways to stop gay marriage is to stop marriage.
Yeah, just stop marriage.
Stop all of marriage. I thought it was hysterical. Just stop all of marriage. And he's like, and the community's going like, that means none of them would get married. That means
no marriage.
It would annihilate marriage altogether. And in the state of Oklahoma, just so gay people can't get married, no one can. And he said that would be like going to a meeting with politicians where somebody says, one of the positions we have, we should do the opposite so that no one can be. And so he gave examples, but the example he gave was we should get rid of capitalism, because then I mean it was hysterical. I couldn't possibly repeat it.
Let me get the name, because I know people are going to want to I'll look it up.
It's right here. I got it.
Yeah, it's Drew Michael. So his name is Drew Michael, and it
was on Instagram, and it was called Same-Sex Marriage. His name was Drew Michael.
Closer from my first,
closer
from my
first. Yeah, the fact that he memorized that delivery,
that was brilliant. Okay, so his name is Drew Michael. I'm sure this has been posted everywhere else too, because it was so brilliant. Like you can't even.
Yeah, I bet it has. Yeah.
Anyway.
So revolution. what is revolution, right? I mean, talk about just the root of the word, it's about revolve, right? But really, we've seen so many revolutions in our lifetimes. I mean, what you talk about coming out of the in-between is a revolution.
Yeah, sorry. Yes. Yeah, okay. So he is on, sorry, you guys. I just want to get this for you because it's just so good. It's Drew Michael, and he is on YouTube. If you just type in Drew Michael, and it's How Bigotry Can Save the World. Brilliant. How Bigotry Can Save the World, Drew Michael. And it's, if you just type in Drew Michael, you'll find him. And
he talks about how hate can produce progressive change. It's really
yes,
pretty
how
clever.
hate can, yes. I mean, yeah, brilliant.
Yeah, no, it's really good. It's really good.
Okay. So back to you, Chrys. So sorry. I just.
How sorry are you?
How sorry am I?
How sorry are you? Let me see. Are you sweating yet? No. Okay,
so revolution.
So I'm opening the whole issue of revolution because he kept saying you were in a revolution.
We are. I was just going to say
it.
we are in a revolution.
We are.
Mhm.
We are. And it's more disturbing every day. It's really hard to live with. But just like we were talking about the my hands moving backwards, just as we were talking about what it means to deal with fear around physical stuff, fear is there in the news, and you hear people say it all the time. Nobody's watching the news anymore. Yeah. Nobody is. Everybody's saying, "Oh no, I can't do the news." I feel a responsibility because I'm teaching to make sure I know what the issues are. So every morning I go through the New York Times, then I go through the Washington Post, and I do a quick scan of the Guardian, and then I put it all away.
Yeah.
The only stories, what stories I read because I send them to you.
You send them.
The only real stories that I read are the ones that are like, oh. And that one story, the one about Florida, this Black professor does this whole event. It was absolutely off the charts. Brilliant. Change.
Mm-hmm.
He invites all these people to come to his house or come to a cemetery where slaves have been buried. And he has people, some people were dressed all in white, and some people were carrying photographs of these folks and telling their stories. And I mean, it was an event. But when you think about protest movements, that was it. Yes. It was brilliant. Usually we think of protest movements like people marching like the women did yesterday. Yeah, yesterday, right? Today's Monday. Yeah. The rovers, the anti the pro-choice march. And then other stuff like that. But this was so creative and so brilliant. And
I feel like it gets you at a different level. So because people can dismiss people with a sign, and they have the little sign bites, but you can't dismiss
a memorial,
someone's story.
Yeah.
It was also
a memorial
story. You can't dismiss that.
Right. It was like the Emmett Till story, right?
Mm-hmm.
It was very much like that. It was like he said, and of course, what went on in Florida,
it was over a pig. These people were slaughtered, you guys, over a pig, over a.
Well, I don't know if you ever saw the movie Rosewood, but they told the story of Rosewood.
Okay.
Rosewood was in Florida, and they found this mass grave down there, and they found a mass grave in Oklahoma too. I mean, the stories coming out of the South around those things, and it's not just the South. I mean, it certainly happened up here too, but the stories are just beyond. And the one about Rosewood was about a woman saying didn't want to get caught, didn't want her male partner to find out that she was having sex with having an affair. So she lied and said that she'd been raped by a black man. And so they went to Rosewood, which was a town where the people in that town post-slavery had made a living. They had started their own businesses. They were doing well. Somebody actually had bought a piano. They had little houses, and they annihilated the city. They annihilated that town. They annihilated the people. There are a couple survivors, but it's a horrible story, but it's not an uncommon story. So the fact
that's what these
that's news I like to read about.
You can't dismiss people's story. You can't dismiss that. And I'm hoping to see more. Of course, I don't hope that there's more horrible stories. I'm hoping that these stories are released.
But there are more horrible stories.
Because we've tried to bury them, right? So we tried to cover them up. And this is, I told you a couple of years ago, this is the era of everything's coming out from under the carpets. There's no longer can remain as we go into this shift. Right. And that's part of it, is our history here. Right. And so these stories need to be heard and released. It will bring so much healing and so much hope for the future. So back to the revolution.
Well, she kills me with TikTok episodes, and I kill her with those stories. So
I know I constantly send her little TikToks.
I know, but I try to tell you when it's a really bad one. So like, don't read this last. Don't read it with your coffee. But yeah, I do. So they're tough. So what is revolution?
Yeah, what is the revolution? And so I'm interested in knowing, after that came out last week, I guess it was, when we talked, and that message came in for you, and this brother energy that came in, that was your brother. I mean, I'm thinking in 222 he was your brother, but I feel like he's in your line, or what? I mean, you know what I mean? He's been part of your lifetimes, but the specific one that he was bringing in, what does that mean to you? As you looked at that over the week, what came to you in regards to that? Because I feel like, again, when we're being asked to remember something, so when we come here, when we come to have this human experience, the whole time we're here, we're trying to remember where we came from, right? And we have all these triggers. We're like, and we kind of want to get there. We kind of want to remember. And so we fight through the fog of this life to remember. So I think, so in that, when he triggered that in you to remember, where did it take you anywhere?
Are you warm? Is it warm there?
Well, I have my heater on in this office.
And yeah. It's not it wasn't the first time I've had that happen. We're fascinated. This because you do this work, the regression stuff. It'll take you back. There's no question in my mind anymore. I know I'm a very old soul. I know that. And I know you are. And I know you and I have been through many lives together, but in various forms. And so that doesn't surprise me. I get moments where I want to tell me more, but it's not going to make any difference. It literally doesn't make any difference, because you were you all the way through. Right? With your lessons. So you're going to be who you are all the way through.
But he obviously wanted to trigger that memory.
Yeah, but what he triggered in me was that I have, in order for me to, what experience I've had with that is about feeling it. It has to resonate. It resonated when we were talking about it. It did not resonate afterwards. So I kept going. I would meditate. I kept going there and saying, all right, what are you showing me? I got images. They were violent. They didn't last long. They were small. And they were old. And there was a psychic medium that I went to in the 80s who was highly reliable, highly good. And he looked at me and he said, I know you're not asking me this, he said, but if you go to Athens, Greece, you'll feel like you know the town like the back of your hand.
Holy cow.
Yes.
Wow.
So that came back. When I found the 222 thing, it was like, oh, he was picking that up. So, the important part about any of that is that, oh God, there's a really cool thing that happened. I found this YouTube. These were scientists. I was watching a lot of scientists over the weekend, but they were talking about how I shouldn't punctuate because I always lose my thought. They were talking about how, oh, I lost it altogether. Never mind. Anyway, it'll come back. Yeah, it was just it's really about the feelings and the resonance, but you've always been who you are. In different incarnations you've been developing. Oh, I know what it was. They were talking about timelines. They didn't know they were talking about timelines. That's the thing that was interesting to me. They were talking about how, first of all, there is no such thing as time, right? Most people don't know that. Scientists also don't know what causes gravity. So that's also important, that they don't know a lot of stuff. But there's no such thing as time. And then there was a little video, a little cartoon, and then one of the persons in the cartoon says, so can you change the past? And the answer was yes, if you change the present. So the next question was, can I change the future? Yes. Those are the timelines.
Mhm.
And so I thought, what a clever way to do that. I'm going to show it to students, but it was a really clever piece about this is what a timeline is. If you do this work on yourself, if you take your free will and use it for that instead of getting caught in the day-to-day 3D junk that's fear-based, you can you can create your future self. I thought that was, that's a revolution.
That is the revolution.
That is the revolution.
That is
And
the revolution.
you were saying this week, you have to remember this. It's time that you remember this. It's time that you use it. Right? And I'm thinking, use it how? But I'm such a student of social movements that, it's like,
Yes.
okay.
And what I'm getting with this too, as well,
Yeah.
to offer more, Chrys, here for you, is what you were fighting for then is the same as we're fighting for now. So
yes,
it's
I saw that. Yeah.
It's been a couple of years, but it's the same social issue, whatever the social, and you remember, and he wants you to remember, we won. Okay.
Right.
And we will win again. But it's the same as you're fighting for now. And he said it's going to take the collective. Right. But you're at the center of this, Chrys. You're at the center of that collective and connection. So I feel like everything that you're doing right now and part of why you came is today.
You can say that and I can take it in as best I can, but I've never thought of myself that way or felt that.
I know. And that's why he's like, remember who you are, Chrys.
Yeah, but
that's part of the challenge you came in this time with. But yeah, remember who you are, and
but remember who a whole lot of people are.
Yes, a whole lot, and that's a collective, right? So
yeah,
you're an example of so many people.
Right. When
we are all part of this. We are all, you know,
everything you're doing, it's part of a collage sort of thing. It's really,
Yes.
we're weaving a fabric, and has a high vibration. I don't know if you saw Andrea yesterday. She did like 6 minutes about a message she got about 2023. She apparently got a message. It was a very short video saying, when will we experience peace? When will the world be in peace? And the message she got was within 100 years. And she said, and what's really good about that is we're on the right path.
We're on that path. We are on that.
On that path.
Yes. Yeah.
And
that
one of
gives
the things
us-
I love about working with you is that you're so passionate about it all.
Yeah.
That whole message you got about righteous indignation. I love that. I totally love that. So it's like, yeah, that's what we all need.
Mhm.
We all need to sort of go, wait a minute, that's enough.
Well, and what your brother is reminding me of is the revolution in 222 was ugly. It was horrific.
Yes, very
So
bloody.
revolutions are not easy to maneuver through.
Yeah.
It may get ugly,
No,
but you will win.
It's very violent. Did you ever see the movie Spartacus?
It's too violent for me.
Oh, listen, I saw it as a teenager
No.
with Kirk Douglas.
Oh, the Kirk Douglas one.
And I mean, the story is, I was a teenager. I mean, we're kids, right?
Mm-hmm.
And my friend Kathy's father worked at a bank. So somehow they took us to the movie theater downtown, and he was going to pick us up when he got done with work. We went and saw that movie. I was dissolved. I was a puddle. I sobbed and sobbed and sobbed. And so today when I'm doing this 222 thing and thinking about that, I remembered that and I went, oh my God. Oh my God. And I had the same reaction. And it's not a usual reaction for me. When I told you I was watching the clips from Close Encounters the other day. Did I tell you this?
Yeah.
Yes. And when the clip came up of the ship landing, I burst into tears and I'm sobbing. I'm like, why am I sobbing? And then one of you said to me, because you want to go home. And I was like, yeah, I did. I felt like, take me home. I want to go back. It's that kind of. But, those are moments, and I've learned now, especially I think in the post-cancer period, looking back on these past 3 years to sort of see how much I've shifted and how much I've changed and how much more of an empath I am. I'm much more of an empath and much more tuned into when things resonate, pay attention. It's all that. So when that comes up, when stuff comes up like that, it's like, hold on to that. There's something here that's important to pay attention to. But you have to, I said this today to this person who was struggling. Most kids, when I teach conflict, most kids don't know what a list of emotions are. It's amazing to me. You say, what are you feeling? I go, I don't know. Well, are you feeling anything? I don't know. What are emotions? They literally asked that question. So I ended up printing off a whole list of emotions and handing it to them. Pick what these are. They had never thought about it before, which is astounding to me.
Wow.
So that's what I was saying to this person today was, you really need to identify your feelings, be in your feelings. And then you said it earlier that we need to spend more time listening, hearing, really hearing other people. The more you hear, the more you listen, the more you learn. It goes a whole lot faster that way. Anyway, yeah, it's the resonance.
I do want to transition into possibly bringing in this light entity if we have any questions for her. But before we do that, I do want to ask you, because I feel like some of the family here that's listening, while you were in the cancer stuff, how difficult was it not to allow it to become your whole story? Because every day, every second,
you know what
is
this
that you have cancer. Every second of the day is battling the cancer. Every second of the day is one more thing that's taken from you because of the cancer. How were you able to not allow it to become your whole story?
Well,
And did it become your
stunned.
whole story and you had to work and push it? Okay.
Well, because the first year and a half was a day-to-day episode,
Second to second.
one thing after another,
Mhm.
and many hospitalizations, and the day-to-day was, I mean, for the first several months I couldn't eat, so I lost a lot of weight, and you know, when I went bald, you know, you go bald, you're like, you knew it was coming, you just didn't know what you're going to do with it.
Right.
And so I ordered wigs, and then I was going through a nightmare around the wigs, and I was like, I'm not doing this. So I stopped doing that. I mean, it's you're both taking what the culture is giving you, and at the same time, you're saying to yourself, and I think I told you I had Mary Magdalene revealed in my hand the whole time I was in the hospital. It was like I was holding on desperately. Just give me some help, give me some guidance. Yeah, you know.
And here's
yes.
If you haven't gotten this, you guys get this one.
Yeah. And that I it was really, you know, I mean, I got this when I turned what, 71? Is that right? No. 72. Anyway, 19. Yeah. Anyway, so and I had 2 really rough years before that. And so I've done a lot of work during those 2 years to try and just sort of regroup and rethink and refeel. And I was doing a lot of work. I was doing a lot of work with a whole array of psychic mediums, and then I started working with one who channels 28 beings, and is totally brilliant and wonderful. And I became really an apprentice. And so that background going into the cancer was with me. So I had a chair, I had a recliner in the living room and the TV in front of me. The first thing I did was to say, I need something to ground me. And I went on and I watched eagles. I watched an Airy, you know, with the 2 babies. And they fledged the same time I did, which was also amazing. But the first time I went for chemo, and I'd already had 2 surgeries, the first time I went for chemo, I had anaphylaxis. So that was another moment of, holy crap, I'm about to die kind of thing. So it was one thing after another like that. With Mary Magdalene in my hand and with the history that I'd had already, I was mostly saying to myself, do I want to stay here? That's what I did. Do I want to stay here? And I wasn't sure, but I had grown enough to realize that it's not something to be afraid of. If you aren't going to stay here, you don't need to be afraid, you know. And I had gotten visions of past lives when I was in the hospital the first time. So I was sort of like, and my mom came, you know, and like in my face. So it was that kind of, okay, all right, okay, you've got a choice here. You know, when you talked about free will, it was like, am I going to stay? And then I did a whole life review before I even went there. And the life review was me saying, do I have any regrets? And I didn't. I didn't have any regrets. I mean, we all make mistakes. You know, we all are hurt or hurt other people. I mean, it's just the way it is. You know, it's life. And I didn't have any regrets. So I sort of was willing to sort of say, okay, what am I here for? What are you going to do? What am I supposed to do with this? And I knew it would be revealed. I just didn't know what form it would come in, and I stopped. Every time the question came up, I said to myself, don't ask the question. You're going to know when it happens. And I made a phone call to a woman in January of 22 to get a reading, and it happened. It was just like, thank you very much, Debbie. So it was like, it was a moment. We both went on screen, and both of us were going, what is this? It's like, whoa, okay. All right. So I'd grown enough. I mean, in the beginning, I was very quiet. I hardly talked. I couldn't talk. What do you say? Right. And this with Ben, it's like, you're like, what am I supposed to do with this? What is this? It's like, what? So I didn't talk, but people would come. I'm very blessed, by the way. I need to say that very loud. I have a lot of people checking on me. I got a very lovely support system. And they were all here. They were all taking turns. Some people were staying overnight. I was sat in that lit recliner, and I just watched them watch me and talk about it and try and cope with it. And I remember one time there was a whole group of people in the living room, and they're talking to each other, and I was just there. And I'm like, this is interesting.
It's very evident to me, Chrys, that so thank you, first of all, for sharing that piece of your journey. Well, that part of your journey. Because it's so helpful on so many different levels for all of us in so many different parts of our own lives, of how kind of like how when your whole world is telling you something, it's saying you have cancer, and this is enveloping every part of your life, but every part of your life is telling you over and over and over again, every second of the day, cancer.
Right.
But how you, in your free will, chose to go higher and seek higher and seek this and seek that. You took yourself out of that narrative that everything was telling you that you are cancer. And
Yes.
but you chose not to make it your whole story. You can see by what you shared how you, in your free will, chose not to make it your whole story. You could have easily, because that's what the world is telling you.
Well, it's hard not to, but I think the blessing was both how I grew up, but it's also being a sociologist and being a teacher. And I spent most of my time writing down other people's stories, not my own. I'd sit in the cancer center with all these cubicles, and I would write down what I was hearing these people say about their lives.
Everybody, yeah.
Yeah, or I sat with this one woman I told you about, this elderly African-American woman whose family had all died of cancer, and she had 2 great-grandchildren that she was in charge of. And she had stage 4 breast cancer. It's like, if you get so self-involved, if you get so self-involved in, oh, poor me, you're going to take yourself down the chute of, oh, poor me.
Yeah. And that's,
Yeah.
we're not saying any path is better than, it's your path, it's your journey, right? But here's a beautiful, positive way to not go into the trap of, this is my full story. My question to everyone, and that also beautiful example of being in service of others, that also is helpful in not making it your story, making it part of your story. And in that, how can I be of service to others while I'm in this chapter right now? And that also is helpful in not allowing it to become your whole story. So I am curious in asking the family that's watching with us and in this conversation with us, what is your world telling you? What is your world telling you? And that this is what part in your story, what part of your life right now is you're saying, this is my story. This is my story. This is my story that might not be, that's only part of your story, but your world is telling you it is your story.
Yeah.
Identify that. And you've heard some tools on how to and make it only part of your story and not your whole story. Just identify. I think that's going to be helpful. Identify what those might be.
I think that when you listen to other people's stories,
Mhm.
when you invite them to tell their stories, you're helping them heal.
Oh, 100%. And
And that's
everything we've talked
you
about.
heal. Yeah.
Yeah.
And you heal through that. You start to feel, I think that the word generosity is always in my head. It's like one of the keys to recovery.
Yeah. Service to
The
others.
more generous you are with all you've received from people taking care of you at every level, the more beautiful it feels, the more loving and beautiful feel. Remember, love.
What?
What? Remember, love is what's it called? Love is the what's our low thing? Love is the wisdom behind awakening.
Love is that was from our beautiful light being entity. Love.
Yeah. Yes. How's that for an entree?
Yeah. Love is the wisdom behind awakening.
Is she here?
Know that when you're in service to others, you're in service to yourself, because everything is connected.
Yeah.
You all are connected.
Right.
So in that service to others, you are in service to yourself.
Yeah.
In the whole. Think it as a whole.
It's a vibration.
So even when you've been given that diagnosis, you step into that in service to others. And it keeps you from making it your whole story, as Debbie would put it, right? Mhm. Do we have any questions that we want to ask while she's here?
I actually, I'm trying to think where is this? Where did I put this? What? Oh, I remember now. Okay, what they said last time? We talked about the feeling that the sense that it's perfect on the other side. And if it's so perfect there, why are we here to learn lessons that are hard? If we're already coming into this life with having touched on those kinds of knowledges, why do we need to come in here at all?
I want you to understand that here on the other side, when you say the word perfect, I say the word love.
Mm.
You are embraced and encompassed and enveloped in love and connection, full connection on what you say is the other side.
Mm-hmm.
There is no lack, there's no distance between your connection into the collective consciousness of love. You are fully embraced in that. That is what you would say is perfect,
Hmm.
but you see there's still room for learning. Learning and in raising your frequency.
Mhm.
So if so, in what you want to know, the lack would come that there's the frequency, there's always, you can always shift your frequency levels, you can always shift them higher, and as you learn and grow, there's always learning and growing and becoming there. It's always movement, there's movement, and always growing, learning, movement. So, but what you are not lacking, there's no separation. Okay. When you come to this planet, to this human experience here, you experience that separation and that disconnect of that collective consciousness and understanding of that acceptance, pure acceptance and love. But there's always room for love. I mean, always room for that frequency advancement in the frequency.
All right. So in response to that topic last time, one person wrote me directly and said that they were frustrated with the answers, which there's more clarification here. But there was also someone, I think her name was Francesca, who said, please tell Chrys that it's not perfect on the other side. And I thought, oh, that's interesting. So clarification is needed. Yeah.
The perfection comes in by the instant connection of the collective.
Mhm.
And in that never feeling alone, feeling complete, whole, complete, and fully embraced in love beyond what you can imagine in this, on the plane that you live in. Does that answer the question?
Well, I was going to say, let me see if I am understanding it right. What I'm hearing is that the word perfect throws us off the path.
Correct.
That it's not about that being on the other side, you are suddenly completely evolved.
Correct.
It's that you're embraced in love.
Correct.
The energy of love, which is the highest energy you can encounter. So that becomes a sort of, and it's hard to describe it from this realm, this dimension. I keep thinking of things like vibration and frequency. The higher your vibration or frequency, the higher whatever. Anyway, that it was so that perfect is really not an operational term.
Correct.
It's really that in order to give this soul more experiences to become able to achieve higher dimensions and higher frequencies and higher vibrations and higher abilities to move the universe up. That's what this is for.
Yes.
How would I do?
Perfect. You did perfect.
That's hard. It's hard to put that into words.
It really is.
Yeah. Because we're so limited, you know, it's, yeah.
It is. Yeah. So it's me, Debbie. It's yeah, the word, and it's interesting experiencing this because I'm kind of on the sidelines, kind of watching and trying to see all this as well, and watching as because I can see also, and so I can visualize some things that she's talking about, but watching her try to put it into the words that we can understand is very interesting. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And you come by your words faster when you're channeling.
That would make sense.
Would it? Okay.
To me, because me, I'm like, I don't have any words. So anyways, we went I think we went overtime today, so sorry guys, this is a little bit longer one today, but blessings to you all. Thank you for hanging out with us, and I just am grateful for our spirit teams from the other side coming through and helping us with a lot of the information today. And as
I can't say it enough, please write in the comments, because we do pay attention to them, and they do help us with these conversations.
Yes, and please, if you have any questions that we want,
exactly,
to present to this beautiful spirit light being that's coming through for us, please write those in the comments as well. We love you.
Aren't we life beings too?
We are, but
okay, just wanted to ask.
We are. So yeah, just look for those opportunities, and let's do better together. We love you, and we'll see you next time. In love is wisdom behind the awakening.
Wisdom behind. Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you.